Hello, Judy back from Thistledew Creations, and today we're scrap busting with Angela from at the Traveling Crafter on YouTube and Brenda Clark at the Simple Crafter, and we're doing hashtag give a scrap, and I'm not really sure what all that means. The hashtag thing I don't really understand, but I'm doing it anyway. Eventually I'll figure it out, but I'm going to do some decorated envelopes. So when I get happy mail, I was just saving them in a great big pile, and I recently went through and did this, what we're going to do today, to a bunch of them. I'll just pull a few out. These I did sort of over the last weekend or so. These were all just, these ones actually aren't junk mail ones. These are not happy mail ones. These are a stack of envelopes that I purchased off of Facebook Marketplace, and they had a company logo on the front as well as some white stickers covering it up, but it really wasn't covering it up. So I thought I would just prepare some happy mail envelopes. So I've got my address all written on the back of them. That was done one night when I watched television. And then I've done a bunch with scraps of napkins, and then I've done some collaging with scraps. It's all scraps. It was actually out of the same bin of scraps, most of this, except for the napkin ones. So I just find similar colors that go together, and put them together, and then I try to leave a blank space to write the person's address. My address is already on the back. Now this one doesn't really have a blank space. So in that case, if I don't want to cover all this prettiness up, then what I might do is just use this as like an envelope full of stickers that goes inside of somebody's bigger envelope. So I'll use them that way too. But like for instance, this one, it's got some napkin and then some other colors of paper that kind of coordinate, but I did leave a blank enough spot that I could put the person's address on there. And then I love these labels. I've printed these out. They're from a free thing on Pinterest, free printables. And I've printed these out in a few different color tones. So when I download it onto my laptop, it allows me to edit. If I save it as a photo, as a JPEG, it allows me to edit it. So I've got some that are paler and some that are darker, and they have more yellow tones in them. So that's interesting to play with too. And then this one is just napkins, so I'll probably use that inside of another envelope. And then this one is that same napkin, but I left room to write the address here. So let's do a couple and just see how we make out. Again, when I do these, they're generally just paper. I have done some where I've decorated them with a few postage stamps and labels, and I certainly have lots of those too. But my goal when I'm doing this is just to do something that I can do in front of the television and not think too much about. So this one has, warning, opening this package will cause extreme happiness. I don't really want to cover that. I think those are so cute. So I'm going to kind of work around it, and I'm just going to reach into my bin and grab some scraps. I better grab some sort of a glue book. I usually keep these kind of free real estate magazines for that. So I've got some map here. It's part of Cracker Barrel map. When we used to go to the States, we would go to Cracker Barrel. And this map shows you where they are all over the States. I actually use something like this to decoupage on my coffee table. So this, I'm going to kind of work around these happy mail stickers. And just grabbing for anything that looks like it might go. And if it has some square edges, I don't usually use many square edges in my designing, but I will use it here because I can do it on the outside corner. There I go, rubbing my fingers again. There's a little piece. And I do like to do this when I'm watching TV. Sometimes I get so sore. I have a hammock that I sit in, not a sofa or an armchair. And when I'm doing these, I'll often be sitting up sideways in the hammock and like in a deep squat, basically. And by the end of the evening, my hips are so sore. But I do it anyway. I get so caught up in what I'm doing that while I'm doing it, it doesn't hurt. It's just when I get up that it hurts. I'll put some of this yellow on as well. A piece right here. Good place for the square edge. And I can use this piece of yellow that I saved from before. My last video was also a scrap busting video. This is the last piece of this yellow and white paper that I didn't use, so I'm going to use it. And actually, I'm going to flip that around because I know I'm going to likely cover that part in the middle. And I would rather see these torn edges out here. I'm just wiping my hands a little more often here than I normally do, just to try to keep from getting so goopy. I'm not sure about that piece. Might have to cover that. Now that I'm seeing this yellow, these yellows come together. There's a piece of green. Greenish aqua. Getting into some pretty small pieces here, and I need a place for the address, so let's use a piece of this green on the ledger. And I'm letting my edges be quite torn here. Some of my pre-decorated envelopes have very nicely cut edges with the ripple scissors and then inked. This one is a little more junky looking, but that's okay. And then let's put some little bits of pink. And I usually, sometimes I'll even have another, like there's enough room to write an address on there. I'm going to want to put somewhere on the envelope what this is, like whether it's a random act of kindness or an ATC swap or whatever. I will want a place to note that. So sometimes have another little square as well. And I always like to include a little bit of a doily too, just to make it really pretty. In this case, I think I'll put it down here. So that's a small one. It would maybe be for an ATC swap or possibly just included in a bigger swap with some stickers or something in it. Usually do pretty large swaps. Hubby just snuck in. I put a sign on the door telling him I was filming, so he was a little quieter that time. I feel bad because sometimes he's sort of locked out of the house while I'm filming, but if I ever start getting money from YouTube, it'll be worth it. So far, nothing. There, so that's decorated on the front. She had a really neat stamp on the back. I don't really want to cover that. And it says art cards inside. I might leave that. And please do not bend. So I'll put my address up here, and maybe I'll have to make a new flap or something if I'm going to use it for ATCs. If I'm going to use it inside of another envelope, I wouldn't bother putting a flap. I might cut a swoop out of the front if I end up using it like a pocket. And that's something else you can use them for, is just as a pocket in a book, and glue it right down or clip it in. So that one's still kind of wet and goopy, but I like the way that's turning out. And then we've got another one here. one that Brian gets when he works for this one lady. She always uses these little envelopes to put his checks in. So I'm just gonna use it to make a pretty little collage on. I'll start with this green. I don't know if this will end up being the main address spot. It might. This is really pretty. I think I'll save that for that. I could use it along here. Yeah, that works. Try not to think too much about it. As long as you're using pretty things, you'll end up with a pretty design. Touch of blue. That I can wrap around. And there's some more blues, and I think a blue doily on this one. And I always try to remember that if I'm thinking that it will be nailed, I don't put much up in this corner because that's where I'm going to put the stamps. Fingers are sticky again. Now that piece, I can see the writing on the back of the green sheet. So I'm going to try to find a plainer piece and do another layer. It's pretty see-through paper. Take that gnarly bit off. Not that I won't use it, but I won't use it here. I'm going to put this just over top of that so that you can't see those letters through. Like that. You might still see them, but you don't notice them as much. Put a little bit of blue sky. It's a very weird shaped piece. I'm going to put that right up in the corner and wrap it around or cut it off, one or the other. So I could wrap it around. This makes for a very stiff envelope when you're done. The layers of paper and the glue kind of stiffen it up. It's kind of a neat feel. Put this across here. So I'll start it there. This is cardstock, so that's part of the reason it gets so stiff is I use all kinds of thicknesses of paper. It's not just like magazine paper thickness. And my stamps will go there, so I'm not too worried, but I will fill it in. And then if the time comes and I'm not using it for mailing, then I can put something else there too. Always decorate more afterwards. It's nice to get that sky repeated and use up those pieces. I kind of like the way I've got these strips down here. Just need something up in here. This is kind of a blue-gray lined paper. I could use something down the side here, maybe more of this. I think that's good. I could put it here, but I should have put it underneath this doily. I guess I can get it in there. Go from here up. And then like that. So there's number 2. I love doing these. Okay, so I'm going to do this big one later. I just had a message come in that I need to respond to, so thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little scrap busting video, and we still have many more scraps to bust, so hashtag give a scrap. And that's another way, is to decorate some envelopes for your happy mail, or to use as pockets in your journals, or to send stickers inside of a bigger package. Just little pretty little collages. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. Happy crafting. Happy scrapping.